At 4:30 a.m., on September 24, 2025, the remaining ships of Russia's Black Sea Fleet are docked at Novorossiysk, resting and rearming after their losses. They believe they're safe, but in a few minutes, Ukraine will prove them wrong. From the west, 6 AQ-400 Scythe drones roar toward the port. Flying barely 50 feet above the water at 90 miles per hour, these machines hug the Earth's curve, invisible to long-range radar. Meanwhile, 3 Mura V-5 unmanned boats slice through the waves from the south. 2 are packed with 700-pound warheads. The third pretends to be a friendly patrol vessel. The trap is ready. 200 meters away, a Ukrainian operator watches through the thermal camera of a Bayraktar TB2 flying at 27,000 feet. His crosshairs are locked on the fleet's jewel, the Admiral Makarov, a $500 million frigate armed with 8. Tonight, the predator becomes the prey. The hybrid ghost strike depends on one brutal truth: a defender forced to watch everywhere becomes blind. Drones from the air and boats from the sea combine to overload the Russian computers and their human operators. The board is set, the pieces move. If you were the Russian commander, which threat would you counter first, the low drones or the fast boats? Comment your answer below. At 4:38 a.m., 7 minutes after the attack began, the first alarm blares inside Novorossiysk command post. The giant Podzuk radar has a contact. It's a strong radar return, 50 miles out, closing fast radar cross-section about 110 square feet. It looks like a patrol boat. The Panzer S-1 battery reacts instantly. Within 3 seconds, 57 E-6E missiles rip through the fog at Mach 3. The decoy Mura boat disappears in a flash of fire, and at that same moment, the low-altitude Kasta 2E2 radar detects faint echoes from the west, 6 of them flying just 50 feet above the surface. The computer labels them anomalies, likely birds confused by the fog. The Panzer is a masterpiece of Russian engineering built to shoot down jets and cruise missiles. Its flaw, the Kalman filter, struggles with tiny drones, each with a radar cross-section of 1 square foot. The fog and rough waves turn its targeting system into a guessing game. The Ukrainian operator, seeing his decoy destroyed, plays his first card. He orders 2 Scythe drones from Odessa to release clouds of chaff-thin aluminum strips that appear as radar signatures 10 times larger than the drones themselves. The other 4 Scythes drop even lower, skimming just 30 feet above the waves and using the Krasnodar cliffs as cover. High above the Bayraktar feeds their precise. The Russians take the bait. Their radar screens now show 2 massive targets. They fire another 4 missiles. The chaff clouds explode into twin fireballs. But Ukraine pays a price. 1 low-flying Scythe is shredded by shrapnel. Russia has burned 12 of 48 ready missiles chasing ghosts. The radar net is beaten. Now the real monster awakens: the Krasuka 4 electronic warfare system. At 4:40 a.m., it unleashes a hurricane of electromagnetic energy, aiming to fry every drone in the sky. Inside the Ukrainian bunker, the operator watches his screens turn to static. His monitor flashes red, signal lost. 1 drone, now flying blind, nearly clips a wave. Sweat beads on the operator's forehead inside the cold control room. This is digital warfare turning smart weapons into helpless bricks. The Russians start spoofing the drone's GPS, feeding false coordinates to make them think they're flying over the Pacific Ocean. But the Krasuka 4 has a flaw: a 100-millisecond delay between reading a signal and blasting its jamming frequency. The Ukrainian AI reacts twice as fast, just 50 milliseconds. It's like turning off the lights to stop someone who already knows the room by heart. The operator flips a switch. Ignoring GPS lies, the drones navigate through hypersensitive gyroscopes and preloaded terrain maps. Above, the Bayraktar circles high and spots the jammer, a single antenna array mounted on a truck. The operator makes a quick, fateful decision. He sacrifices 1 drone, converting it into a 154-pound guided missile. The $30,000 machine dives straight toward the... But the Russians aren't done. As the Krasuka dies, its big brother, the Merman BN, activates. It projects a massive spoofing field, and this time it works. 1 Scythe veers 2 miles off course and is lost. 3 drones remain. The Ghost War is over. The hunt begins. At 4:41 a.m., with their electronic screens shattered, the Russians fall back on brute force. From a coastal airfield, 3 Orion drones climb into the pre-dawn. These are airborne assassins designed to hunt down and destroy the Scythes and Mura boats. The lead Orion pilot scans the sea with thermal optics and gets lucky. Through the thick fog, one Mura boat exposes a faint heat bloom from its exhaust. That's enough. He locks on instantly. A KA-B-20 missile drops from the wing. The Mura has no defense. The missile hits dead center. 700 pounds of explosives erupt into a blazing fireball, a geyser of flame and seawater bursting 20 feet high. Half of Ukraine's naval strike power vanishes instantly. The Russians believe the tide has turned, but that's an illusion. The Orion may be faster 120 miles per hour, but in this dense fog, it's like a sports car chasing a dirt bike through a forest. And there are only 3 of them defending this sector, 3 hunters against. The Ukrainian operator, watching one of his boats vanish in flames, makes a brilliant move. He orders the last Mura V5 to slow down to just 20 miles per hour, sinking between 6-foot waves, turning invisible to radar and heat sensors. At the same time, he switches the remaining scythes into cold mode, rerouting exhaust upward to cut their heat signature. They fly dangerously close to the Krasnodar cliffs, using the terrain to... The fog that blinds the Orions is just a cloud blanket for the Bayraktar above. The operator spots the lead Orion circling for another target. He transmits its exact coordinates via Starlink. One scythe breaks off. It has a new mission. The Orion pilot scans the sea below, unaware that a $30,000 plywood drone with a 154-pound warhead climbs behind him. The scythe slams into the Orion midair. Ukraine loses a boat, but Russia loses its eyes. The remaining Orion pilots, confused and leaderless, pull back. At 4:43 a.m., the final scythe drone and last Mura boat breach the harbor's defenses. The deep rumble of an AK-630 cannon fills the air. The AK-630 close-in weapon system awakens on the Admiral Makarov's deck. Its roar floods the night air, 10,000 rounds per minute of 30mm high explosive shells. It's not. One drone remains. But here's the secret the brochures don't mention. The AK-630 empties its ammo drum in 20 seconds of continuous fire. Its outdated MR-123 radar was built for sea-skimming missiles, not tiny cold drones made of plywood. And physics adds insult to injury. The Russian gunner isn't standing on solid ground. He's on a $500 million warship rocking 5 degrees in heavy swells. He's trying to hit a lawnmower-sized target moving 90 miles an hour while riding a mechanical bull. The Ukrainian operator gambles everything. He pushes the stick forward the last. Scythe begins violent serpentine maneuvers, darting left and right faster than the CIWS computer can update. At the same time, the final Mura boat launches a huge cloud of chaff, flooding the radar with false targets. High above the Bayraktar, paints the targets, the fuel depot, and the Caliber launch tubes with an invisible laser feeding coordinates to the last scythe. Chaos reigns on deck. Sailors fire rifles into the sky. Someone even launches a useless shoulder-fired missile. The AK-630's tracers keep streaming, but now chase ghosts. The gunner fires blindly, his ammo counter nearing 0. Through the storm of steel, the last scythe punches through. The Russians have thrown everything and still failed to stop it. The final drone closes to within 550 yards. At 4:44 a.m., its camera locks onto the pier's fuel depot beside the 8 gleaming Caliber launch tubes. The system needs only 50 milliseconds to adjust its course. Checkmate. The drone doesn't strike the bridge. It hits the smarter target, the fuel depot. Its 154-pound shaped charge focuses all energy into a molten copper jet traveling 8,000 feet per second. That jet of metal slices through the depot's 1-inch steel wall like wet cardboard. A second later, burning fuel spills out flames, racing toward the Admiral Makarov. The heat cooks the Caliber missile tubes, crippling their delicate guidance systems. The ship doesn't sink, but the result is far more strategic. The launch mechanisms are melted, the missile tubes turned into dead steel. A $500 million weapon of terror is now the world's most expensive scrap metal. The port of Novorossiysk burns. The Admiral Makarov's entire port side is blackened and warped. It's crippled, unable to move. More importantly, its 8-caliber missiles, once aimed at Ukrainian cities, now sit silent, useless tubes of steel. The aftermath is devastating for Russia. From a bunker 200 miles away, Ukrainian engineers turned $2 million worth of hardware into a national humiliation. The lesson: never underestimate an opponent who turns cheap parts into strategic nightmares. If you're on Team Ukraine, hit that like button and tell us in the comments which tactical move was the most brilliant in this entire operation.